Hi, I'm Stephanie Hunnell from the Hunnell Law Group, here to talk to you a little bit about parenting time exchanges during this social distancing. I've received a few phone calls and emails from clients, and I've also seen a few posts on Facebook with people wondering how they're supposed to handle parent exchanges given that we're supposed to be socially distancing ourselves from others. That doesn't really mean socially distancing yourself from your exes, although that may be something that you want to continue to do. But I have 5 tips for you and 5 suggestions, as the same suggestions that I've given to my client. The first one is not a suggestion. You are to abide by your court order if there is an order in place or an agreement in place. That is your default position. But if you and your ex think that you want to modify the terms of those exchanges and the pickup and drop off and the weekends, especially since there's no school right now, you're free to do that. So my tip number 2 is that you need to make sure you have an open dialogue with your ex. You don't have to get along with each other, but you do need to make sure that you're getting along enough to have conversations with your ex that are in the best interest of your son or your daughter, especially during a time like this. Sometimes, depending on what the schedule is like, it may not be appropriate for you to have the child exchanges, depending on distance, depending on how far you're traveling. I had a discussion with somebody earlier in the week where there was travel that required them to go from New Jersey to North Carolina. In that case, I thought, there is a good argument to be made that perhaps there shouldn't be a child exchange because you're going to be stopping at rest areas. It could be dangerous. You're going to be coming into contact with a lot more of the public. But if you live in the same neighborhood or you live within a very close proximity within the state of New Jersey, there's really not any reason why your exchange shouldn't happen. But this is a dialogue, this is a conversation that you as parents need to be having with your ex-spouse or ex-partner. 3, when you do have the child exchanges need to be respectful, and you need to avoid any kind of anxiety that you're going to create for your son or daughter. You don't want to be saying things like, be careful, don't do this and don't do that to your son or daughter, and putting the onus on them to be worried as they leave to their other parent's house. This is a conversation that you and your ex should be having regarding what the two of you expect of each other as far as taking care of your son or your daughter, for disinfecting things, regarding play dates, regarding washing hands, regarding coming into contact with other people that might come over to your home. It's not something that you should be discussing with your child, and you should definitely, you should be discussing these things with your child, but at the child exchange, you should not be kind of telling your child or giving them the impression that they're going to be unsafe when they go to their other parent's house. For example, I heard, this is nothing to do with social distancing, but there was a case where somebody was going on a vacation and the other parent was very on that child to say, oh, make sure you don't drink the water, make sure you don't do this, make sure you avoid this. And unfortunately, that creates a level of anxiety with the thought for that child that they're not going to be safe and their other parent isn't going to properly take care of them. So you just be mindful of that. 4, if the two of you cannot come up with an agreement, you can mediate your issue with an attorney. My office, and I'm sure other attorneys' offices, are going to be offering virtual mediation. So you can do Skype, we can do Zoom, we can also do a telephone conference call for mediation to try to see if we can come up with a middle ground or a resolution to your case. Now, you have to understand that the courts currently, we received a directive today that the courts are closed essentially for non-emergent matters. So there's not going to be any in-person court appearances for the time being anyway. So mediation can be very useful. You can call the office and we can schedule an appointment, provided there's no conflicts, and we can do a Zoom or a Skype, and we can try to figure out how to resolve the issues so that your child's best interests are continued to be maintained. And finally, number 5, as a last resort, you can file an application with the court if it's an emergency. So for example, if your child is actually sick or showing symptoms, that could be a good reason for you to not honor the parenting schedule, but you do need an order from the court to say that you're not supposed to, or you don't have to honor that schedule temporarily. If there is an elderly person that you don't want to potentially put into danger, you might not want your child to go there for that reason. If somebody in the other house happens to be sick or be symptomatic or have traveled abroad, that could be another issue that you can raise. If you have an attorney, you should contact your attorney to discuss these issues with him or her. They can guide you with regard to the specifics of your case. Or if you have questions and you don't have an attorney, please feel free to contact the office for a consultation. Again, we can do phone or we can do Skype. I'm also going to include a 7 tips for parents that are addressing their children and parenting time, and I'll put that document into the links below. So there's 7 additional tips unrelated to the child exchange, but really related to how your demeanor and how you should be acting and discussing this COVID-19 pandemic with your children. I hope this was helpful to you. Have a great evening. Everybody be safe.